Alright guys, I am the NFL Addict, and today I will be making my NFL record predictions for the 2021 Detroit Lions. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe. I have finished the AFC, and I'm almost done with the NFC North. I'm going to finish off the NFC playoffs, and then I'm going to do it all over again. So if you're into this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe, because I post stuff like this all throughout the season. Obviously, it's not always record predictions, but I do power rankings, all that kind of stuff that you would expect on any channel. Alright, so the Lions. Let's go ahead and get through the rough stuff first, and there's quite a bit of it before we get to the few positives that have come from this offseason. So the rough stuff is obviously they lost Kenny Golladay. He hasn't had the greatest past 1-2 years, but really overall it's a big loss that this team lost him. He's a very, very good wide receiver, and I think he will have a pretty good season, or I don't know how long he's going to be in New York for with the terrible quarterback they've got. But it's definitely a big loss they lost him. And also, really the only thing that was keeping them out of rebuild category was the fact that they had Matthew Stafford, who was out there. He was probably a top 10 QB. He was out there working. He was out there playing really well. And then they just lost him, and they completely downgraded to Jared Goff, who isn't terrible, but he's probably not going to be in the he's like slightly below average. He's not any good. Going from top 10 to that is going to take a big damper, and taking one of your best weapons and throwing him away is not going to help either. They do still have DeAndre Swift. Okay, let's get to the positives. They do still have DeAndre Swift and T.J. Hawkinson, and adding Penei Sewell, which was a great move in the draft. I mean, I didn't even think he'd fall that far. I thought the Bengals were going to take him, but they got Penei Sewell, and that's definitely going to help out DeAndre Swift. So I think they do have a pretty okay running back. I mean, not running back, running game. They have a pretty good running back. He surprised me last year. He had a lot of good games. Some rough ones, but some good ones. He was, above average. So, yeah, their running game is okay. And then also Jeff Okudah, Trey Flowers, and Romeo Okwara does show that they do still have some talent on that defense. It's not great by any means. It's probably a bit better than their offense, but it's not, I wouldn't even put it in the good category. So this is a team. Oh, also, their head coach. I love him. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he is insane. If you haven't seen some of his press conferences, you need to look them up. He is legendary. But I think this is a team that is falling into a rebuild. And when you first start going into the rebuild, I think this is whenever they are not going to win that many games. I'd honestly be surprised to pick them to win 3 or 4 games. So let's go ahead and get started. They have a pretty tough schedule, a pretty bad team. It's not going to be great. In Week 1, they have their first home game in Week 1, which is always pretty fun, unless you're going up against a fully healthy San Francisco 49ers, which is not fun because the amount of talent on the team is insane. That offense is going. I mean, last year, even with half of their starters missing, they still managed to win 6 games. San Francisco's going to win this game pretty easily. And then in Week 2, they have an away game against Green Bay. And Green Bay does not have Aaron Rodgers, which is going to put a big damper on that offense. But I don't think they're going to be that bad. I like the quarterback that they've got now. I don't love him, but he's all right. And also, their offense is just so good. I'm going to give Green Bay the win here, and they're probably going to sweep them in Week 18 too. I'm not going to change that just yet because I like it to be kind of like a storyline. And in Week 3, they have their second home game, and it's against the Ravens, who added Sammy Watkins. They got a couple of really good pieces in the draft, and just took them from a team that contended in the playoffs and played really well in the playoffs and won a playoff game, to a team that probably won a couple, or has a chance of winning a couple, and is back in there with the best. Maybe not top 3, but they're definitely up there. And in Week 4, they have an away game against Chicago. And Chicago, adding Justin Fields was a great move, but cutting Kyle Fuller, who was one of your best defenders, to sign Andy Dalton, who is now probably only going to start a couple games, is no good. I think Andy Dalton won't be starting in Week 4. I think if you watch my Bears game, you'll know more detail into this. But I think that the first 3 games will be Andy Dalton, and the rest will be Justin Fields. So this could potentially be Justin Fields' first game on the field, and that's not going to be a bad thing. I think Chicago gets the win here. I'll probably have them split in Week 12. But as for now, they start off 0-4, and they have another divisional game. They've had 3 divisional games out of the last 4, and now they have an away game against Minnesota. And Kirk Cousins has been getting kind of bashed way too much lately. I don't know if you can see up there in the top right. I don't think they're going to be that great, but I definitely think they're going to be better than a lot of people think they will be. That defense, however, is no good. That defense, they added some pieces to the secondary, especially. That was some pretty bad. Patrick Peterson was a good signing, but other than that, I haven't done all that much. Minnesota gets the win here. I know I just said all that bad stuff about their defense, but that offense is just too good. It really, in my opinion, they should have had. I don't remember his name. Dang it. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but their wide receiver from last year should have been Offensive Rookie of the Year. Justin Jefferson, that's his name. Should have been Rookie of the Year. And with him on his team, I don't see them getting swept by Detroit. I'm still thinking about whether or not they're going to split, but it's whatever. In Week 6, Detroit has a home game against the Cincinnati Bengals, who should have added Penei Sewell, but they didn't. But in doing that, they got Jamar Chase, which means that now their top 3 wide receivers are Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, which is it's really good. That is a really good wide receiver core. But that's about it. They also, they have a pretty good running back, and their defense isn't really at all there. However, that offense is just so good that I'm going to have to give them the win over Detroit. I mean, Detroit could take the advantage of the Cincinnati having a bad offensive line and them having a good secondary. I don't know if they can. That doesn't make any sense because whatever. I don't see them winning this one. And in Week 7, Detroit has an away game against the Rams. It's a revenge game for both QBs. And looking at LA, I mean, they just have such a stacked offense. And then they went out and they added Deshaun Jackson. That defense is so legendary. LA's going to get this win here. And I think that it's going to make Detroit look stupid for making that trade. In Week 8, this is probably the closest game that they've had thus far. Philadelphia has gotten rid of absolutely everybody except for Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. I'm pretty sure he's still on the team. I'd sound really stupid if he isn't. But it's all in the hopes that Jalen Hurts goes out there and plays really well. And I think, he had a couple good games last year. He didn't, astound me, but I think he'll be solid. I could see him starting for, 4 or 5 years before finally being cut or whatever, being a Derek Carr style QB where he's kind of in mediocrity but hangs on. And I like those tight ends too much. It's really, really close, but I like the Philadelphia defense and tight ends too much. Philadelphia gets the win here and knocks them down to 0-8 as they go into their bye week, preparing for a tough game in Week 10. I mean, at this point, playoffs are kind of not even a possibility, especially looking at how tough this season is. They have an away game against Pittsburgh. That defense is just so good. Even without Bud Dupree, it's so stout that they're going to get the win against Detroit. And they have an away game against Cleveland. That defense is so good. They added a lot to that secondary this season. I mean, they're a team that went from winning a playoff game and almost making it to the AFC Championship game to a team that's probably going to make the AFC Championship game. They're probably one of the top teams in the league right now, especially with that high-powered offense with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb especially, who are both receiving and running threats. And Cleveland's going to get the win here, knock them down to double-digit losses. They're going to get the split against Chicago. So their first win. And then in Week 13, I am probably going to have them get swept by Minnesota. I think that Minnesota defense is just good enough to get them to sweep. However, when I'm done with my normal predictions and I'm doing worst case, best case scenario for the Lions are going to get a split against Minnesota. In Week 14, this is another one that could be pretty close. It's an away game against Denver. Denver really doesn't have anybody. Their main weapon last year, and really their only one, other than maybe Jerry Jeudy, was Philip Lindsay, and now he's on the Texans, so it's not that great. However, Jerry Jeudy is pretty good, and they do have a pretty okay offensive line. I like that defensive line a lot, and the Denver Broncos are going to get a win here, one of their rare ones. And now they have another tough game, a home game against Arizona. They're 1-12. Things are not going great. Arizona, their offense is just too good. I'm really now looking at these last couple games. I'm trying to think of a way I could give Detroit another win, but I just can't think of it. Arizona's going to get a win here. Now they have a pretty close one here, an away game against Atlanta. I really think they should have gone quarterback in the draft. I think Trey Lance was the better pick. However, Kyle Pitts is definitely going to be a good weapon for them, and I'm going to give Atlanta the win here. Seattle, I don't think you really have to say all that much. You're going to get the win here, and then I'm going to give Green Bay the split. So, not the split, the sweep. So yeah, they end up going, come on, there we go. So yeah, sorry about the Detroit fans. Y'all end up going 1-16. Not the worst team in the league as of yet. I'm looking, and yeah, the only team that's worse than you yet is Jacksonville Jaguars, and the only team that has the potential to be tied with you is Philadelphia, which never is good. Now let's do worst case scenario. All right, now that we've done worst case scenario, let's go through best case scenario. After that switches back, come on. I don't let my computer lag so much. By the way, it's a Thursday game, so y'all lose all your games, but then you get that one primetime game, and you're going to get the win. So, best case scenario, y'all could sweep Chicago. Y'all could sweep Minnesota. Y'all could beat Cincinnati. This one's probably the easiest one that y'all could possibly win. And yeah, y'all could beat Denver and Atlanta. And that's about as far as I'm willing to stretch best case scenario. Those are all the kind of close games pushed over to Detroit, and some of the not so close games that I think could, if a couple players have good seasons and a couple players have bad games in the other team, could have been the wins. So yeah, you have a nice 8-game stretch there from 0-17 to 8-9. I just happen to think that the most likely out of those by far is 1-16. Don't hate me for it, or do whatever. If you're big Detroit fans, you shouldn't not hate me for this. But please, just leave a dislike and let me know in the comments why you think that y'all will get better. And don't just say this guy knows nothing about football. We signed so many good people and do not. I mean, I had a conversation with this one dude. He was like, yeah, man, this guy obviously knows nothing about football. He doesn't know all the players we signed. Couldn't name a single person that y'all had signed. Just please let me know in the comments why you think that Detroit should be better than 1-16, which I'm sure every single Detroit fan is going to be telling me that record should be flipped. All right. See you in the next one where I'll be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who I can assure you will have a much better record than the Lions next year.